So this is episode number 2. It's the second time that I'm doing this. It's an Ask Me Anything live Q&A. So please, if you've joined the chat, please do send in your questions, anything that you've wanted to ask me, anything that you're curious about, anything that you would like me to give my opinion on, anything that you'd like to ask me about my story, please do ask me. It's fine. You can just put in the questions in the chat room. Now, before we do start that and we wait for the questions to come in, there are two incredible announcements that I'd like to just speak about. The first one is the new website. I have a new website coming and it's so close to being ready. I'm kind of hoping that I can kick it off hopefully next week, but maybe the week after. Now, this will be a website which has the history of the project, how we arrived at where we're at, and where I'm trying to go with in the future. So that's an incredible milestone. I feel like it's just going to really make this project seem a bit more professional. So when I do start to approach corporate companies or even schools, which is something I really have my eye on, I can be like, yeah, look, I've got this website, you can see all of the work there, instead of directing them to a YouTube or a Facebook page. So that's a massive thing, and I'm really looking forward to kicking that off. So please keep an eye on my posts. I'll be posting about that soon. Now, we've got a question come in, which is so fantastic, because last time it took a little while to get everybody going. So question number 1 is, have you ever thought that maybe your abuser had been abused, and how do you feel about that? That is a fantastic question. Thank you for sending that in, because I'm actually writing a post at the moment to do with that. Now, we do know for sure that many of these people that are committing these crimes have a history of abuse themselves. Now, this is very interesting, actually, because my question always is, why, if something had happened to you that caused you so much pain, caused you so much distress in your childhood, and the aftermath of it continued to cause you distress as you got older, why would you then repeat that to another child? It's probably the $1 million question. I reckon there have been studies on it. I reckon people have almost spent a lifetime investigating that question. Why is it that somebody would repeat the horrific thing that happened to them to someone else? But to look at that a bit deeper, what is it that's driving them to do it? What is it that's exciting them about this? What is it that's arousing them about this? So, have I considered that maybe my abuser had been abused before? Yes, I for sure have done. Does it make it right that he then went to abuse me? Of course, we're saying no, it doesn't. But do you think that actually, if I was to find out, let's say that the man that did this to me, his father also did it to him, for example, would that make things any easier? Would that be able to help you kind of forgive in some kind of way? I'm not sure. Maybe actually it would make you even more angry because that person did it again when they know how devastating it was. I think this is actually quite a tricky one, because we don't want to start saying to people that it's okay for you. We excuse the crime that you've committed against children because it happened to you. I don't think we should go down that area. It is really tough. It is a really tough. But that's a great question. Thank you so much. I'm going to start writing a post on that. I've got an idea in my head on how to communicate that. And you will see from my posts that I'm trying my best to make them interactive. I'm trying my best to make them engaging. I'm trying my best for you to read them and then for you to feel like you've got things to think, like they make you think. They make you think of things from another angle. I'm trying to think of one that I put out recently. Actually, I looked at some of my posts from this time last year, and there was one about Let me just go to it and I'll quickly find it. 1 second. I'm just scrolling down. So I wrote, here it is. I got it. Okay, ready for this. I wrote, the paedophile who abused me was once this age, and I've put a picture of a toddler playing. He looks like a youthful, innocent, bright toddler. He's playing in the grass and he's got a cute hat on, and I've written, the paedophile who abused me was once this age, a young, innocent, playful toddler. Where did it all go wrong? Was this evil in him from birth, waiting until he was an adult to become active? Or did something in his life make him this way? This is like the $1 million question. Is it nature or nurture? Are these people born with this thing inside of their brain and they're waiting until they're an adult for it to become active? Is it something that's dormant in many people's brains but something triggers it? Or is it just purely something in his life made him this way? I'm just not sure. And I think there's many answers to that question, and every individual situation is just so different. I think that's why we just can't get a hold of this. I think it's a big reason why we just can't get a hold of this situation, because the scenarios are so vast. The scenarios are so every no story is the same. No story is the same. There's a page on Instagram called Surviving Childhood Trauma. And if you haven't seen that, check that out. But they do a Survivors Speak live, and there's just endless stories, and each one of them is so different. Nothing is the same, and that's why I think it's quite hard to kind of grasp this subject or get a hold of this topic. So just for the people that have just joined, this is my second live Q&A. It's an Ask Me Anything live Q&A. So if you do have any questions that you've wanted to ask me about my story, about what I think about things, my opinion on things, please write them in the chat box and we can get some questions answered. Now, I did start this live Q&A with an announcement about my new website, which is a fantastic thing that's coming up. Please keep an eye out for that. It's probably going to come out next week or the week after. Now, it is a summary of how I got here, how the project started, and the vision for the future. But it's also got a new feature. It's got a new feature which, I don't know how much I should say about it, but I think people are going to appreciate it. So that's coming very, very soon. I've got another announcement to make about the theatre. Now, so many people have seen this. I wrote a post on it. I put a little bit about my story, but we've had a question come in first. So let's answer that and then we'll get back to this theatre discussion. So, next question. This topic is devastating. I agree with you. I talk about this stuff with my kids almost every day. 8 years old and 5 years old. Hats off to you. That's incredible to hear. That is a lot about what my work is about. It's trying to encourage people to have these conversations. They must think I'm crazy. Possibly. How much is enough or not enough to constantly talk to them about it? Question mark. What an excellent question. Okay. How much is too much discussion with your children? Let me just try to answer that. Okay, let's make the comparison with the stranger danger education that we give children, the say no to drugs education that we give children. I like to use those 2 points. How often do we talk to them about that? Now, if your child is under 10, are you talking to them about stranger danger every day? Are you talking to them about stranger danger monthly, yearly? Or are you talking to them about stranger danger every time they go outside, every time they leave the house? How often are you talking to your teenager about say no to drugs? Is that every time they leave the house, every time they go out with mates, or is it just like the occasional conversation over dinner? Now, I'm going to say that it's never nothing. It's never like once, right? So maybe we could take that as a template. And we could say we could work with that same frequency to talk to children about private areas and the dangers of being online. Probably the dangers of being online is something that needs to be reinforced more and more. I just got a comment here saying strangers don't rape children that often. And yeah, the reason why I just want to respond to that, the reason why I use this stranger danger example, the reason why I like to use that is because a lot of people have said to me that speaking to their children is unnecessary and it will break their innocence and they don't see why they should have to do it. And actually, one of the reasons why they don't want to do it is because they're worried it's going to frighten their child. But my response to that is we're okay to talk about the stranger danger to children, which is a scary concept for a child, because essentially we're saying don't talk to people who you don't know because they may take you away. That's basically what we're saying. But we're okay to say that to a 5-year-old multiple times. We're okay to say that to a 7-year-old multiple times. It's probably a bit of a scary concept for a child to understand. So that is my argument why we wouldn't talk. Why do we think that talking to children about private areas is that much more scary? I don't really think that it's that much more scary to say to a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old that these are the areas where nobody goes near. And if anybody does, you are to tell me. And these are the areas that you are not to go towards on anyone else's body if they ask you to do so, even if they ask you to do so. It's just a no-go area. So that's what I'm saying. And I just don't know. I don't really have all the answers. That's what I'm a little bit frustrated about, because I don't really know what the definite answers are. But what I do know for sure is that not having the conversation at all is not a good option. It's not a good option. And I say that with confidence because I am somebody who believes that if I had known the rules, if I had known the right from wrong, then I may have said something in time. I'm not saying I definitely would have, because we all know that the grooming process is really gets hold of a child. When it's done properly, it can really get hold of a child. It takes control. It's like that puppet. You become the puppet, right? But if you've got an understanding of the rights or wrongs, possibly you'd speak out. And that's why I'm an advocate for speaking to children. Okay. I've really given a long answer, and I hope I've kind of answered that question there. Apologies if I haven't. One of the things that I'm trying to do with this one, with this live Q&A, because it's my second attempt. When I listened to the first episode, I realised that I was kind of waffling on the questions, and but now I want to become more concise. So that's my aim for this Q&A. Okay, any more questions coming in? We've got some people in the room now. It's a Ask Me Anything live Q&A. So please, if you have a question, do put it in the chat box and I will get them answered. Whilst we're waiting for the next question, shall we just have a little discussion about the second announcement that I have for everybody, that I'm so excited about, that I have been talking about since day one of this project. I can't believe it. Feels like we're making ground with it. Yeah. And that is the theatre proposal. I posted this week giving details of what I have sent to theatre companies. I have emailed nearly, I think like 100 or 150 theatre companies around the London area. And one has written back to me saying that they would potentially be very interested. This is incredible. Even just to get the message back to say that's a strong idea and we're interested in producing it. Now, I'm trying to organise meeting up with them on a Zoom call to discuss things further. But I believe that theatre, if we can get a theatre production going, use my story as a basic basis and kind of create a narrative that explains how the life of a survivor unfolds so people can understand it through story, it could be so powerful. And then to take things one step further, because we've always got to be reaching for the stars here, is that we could tweak it and get it into schools, right? Because I think I'm gonna find it very difficult to try to get into schools, because they're going to be worried about what I'm going to say or what I'm going to do. But if we've got a theatre production that's already been that we've already done nights on, we've done 5 nights in London, let's say, and it's been a success, and then we tweak it for the age group that we're going to the school with, then we may be able to get in. Because it's the schools that I'm trying to break. Okay, so we have another question. Thank you. We tend to focus on strangers, but how do we talk about them, about people that they love? The statistic that I read actually today was that 90% of the people who have been abused know their abuser. I am in that statistic. I knew my abuser. So how do we teach children to be wary about everybody? It starts to become difficult then, doesn't it? Because you're kind of telling the child that I'm sorry, but you're saying, I'm sorry, but you live in a world where nobody is safe. Everybody's out to get you. So I don't really know how to answer that question. Let me think about it for a moment. Could we say something like, if you feel uncomfortable about anything with anyone, please you are to tell me. If you again, it's just this private area conversation. How else can I say it? Because if a child knows the areas that nobody is to go near, it doesn't matter if it's the bloke that lives down the street or the woman in the family. As soon as a child gets touched there, they know that's it. That's the no-go area. Okay, let's get on to the next question here. Please talk about how to speak our adult children to ask if anything happened when they were small. Please talk about how to speak to our adult children. Okay, I'm so sorry, Lisa Ives. If you could retype that question, I can't quite understand what you're getting at, and then I will definitely answer it. Okay, we have another question come in. Thank you so much. How do we tell our parents that our grandparents abused us as a child? They are no longer in our lives, but the trauma remains. This is where the big problem comes. Because such a large percentage of people who are abusing children in a sexual manner are within the family. And I think lots of people are keeping quiet because they don't want to break the family up. Or in this example from this question, you're possibly talking to your parents about their parents abusing you. There's going to come a fear with that of whether you'll be believed. There's going to be so many complications. It's going to break relationships. I reckon that's a massive reason why a lot of it doesn't get spoken out about, because the aftermath is so massive. It's so huge. I used an analogy once where, when a stone drops into water and you get the ripples, and the ripples just continually move outwards, and they do soften as they get further away from the initial impact, but they're still disturbing everything around that initial impact. Now, if we take the stone hitting the water as the abuse, the ripples that come after it are just so huge, and this is a fantastic example. My question, my answer to that actually is, you know what? If I would say to somebody, if they really felt strongly about speaking out about what happened to them, if they really felt like that is what they wanted to do, and it was going to benefit them in some way and actually then benefit the wider community because that person is spoken out against, then I would say it may be worth doing. And the consequence of what relationships are broken as a result of it may be the sacrifice or the consequence that needs to be had. It's actually so sad, isn't it? You know, when you really get into this subject, it's full of sadness. It's full of sadness. It's so horrific. Is it the actual? Do you think it's the actual act or the actual physical abuse that is so saddening, or is it the redirection of that victim's life in the redirection of that victim's life that wasn't their choice, because an experience of abuse no doubt redirects somebody's life. They were going this direction, their childhood was going in this direction, and this significant moment has sent it in a different direction. But they didn't have a choice in that, right? They didn't have a choice in that. That was done to them. I think that's one of the that's one of the saddest bits about it, you know? That's one of the saddest bits about it. Because nobody likes to see somebody's life rearranged through no fault of their own. And if it's like, you know, something that was unavoidable, like a natural disaster or an accident, then we can kind of come to terms with that as it being such an unfortunate situation, and we feel sorry for that person. But when it's a human being rearranging another human being's life, it's not fair. That's one of the big things. It's just not fair. Nobody likes to see anybody unfairly treated, unless it's the person that's actually doing it, I suppose. Yeah, okay, let's continue. Somebody's written here, it would be interesting to know what type of humans... If I wasn't abused... It would be interesting to know what type of human I would be if I wasn't abused throughout my childhood. That is an interesting thing, and I've thought a lot about that before as well. I've thought about, I wonder where I would be at if I didn't go through that experience as a child. And I try my best to not worry too much about that, because number one, that's not happening, is it? You had the experience, so now you're in this position. But also, could I say, and please, I'm speaking to everybody that's listening, can I say that just as much good can be brought out of this situation as the bad? We can take just as much good as there is bad out of these experiences of child sexual abuse. Can I say that? Or is that over optimistic? I wonder what you think about that. Because I suppose I say that because otherwise it's only sadness and sorrow. And if it's only sadness and sorrow, it's going to do one thing to you for sure. And that is drive you into the ground until you can't get up again. That's all it's going to do. So I'm thinking that if we can just kind of take some good, what good could we bring? Let me say that. What good could we bring out of it? I'll give you one. I'll give you the number one that's undeniable. You're now more aware with children around you. And that's priceless. You're now more aware, more vigilant with the children around you, whether that be your own children, whether that be your nieces and nephews, whether that be your friends' children. And that is a gift. That is priceless experience and knowledge that I think to have it truly is because you experience that. Okay, so that's one good thing that can come out of an experience of abuse. Another good thing that could come out of an experience of abuse is now you understand that not all human beings, not all adults, not all people have got your best interest at heart. And you learn that from a young age. It made you wary, it made you stronger, it gave you a suit of armour to march forward with. You know, sometimes I wonder whether I'm being over optimistic, but again, I say it. If we're only going to consider this as sadness and sorrow, then I just feel like it's going to get the better of everybody. It's going to get the better of everybody. Okay, we've got questions. Let's see what we have here. How old were you when it happened to you, and was it so gradual that you didn't notice what was happening? Great question. Yes, it was. I was 8 years old when it happened. It lasted for 2 years, and it must have been such a gradual process. The way I'm guessing it could have been was maybe it was just this guy was, when we were playing video games, he was just getting a bit closer to me, and then getting a bit closer to me, and then getting a bit closer to me. 1 month in, it's like our legs are touching. Then it's a nice rub on the back. Then it's lots of cuddles. Then it's the next thing. Then it's the next thing. Then it's the next thing. But honestly, it was like before I knew it, we were just doing things naked, and I wasn't even questioning it. It was just completely normal for me at that point. It wasn't a problem. Nothing we were doing was physically hurting me. He was giving me a lot of comforting feelings. He was bigging me up. He was, you're a good boy. You're a good boy. If you do this, you'll be better. If you do this, you'll be special. So it was just such a gradual process. I didn't even realize that it was going on. I didn't even realize it was happening, really. Well, actually, of course I realized it was happening, but I just thought it was the thing that me and him did. I thought it was the special thing that me and him did. It was our thing. I knew I wasn't to tell anybody, but I didn't really understand why. Now, at the start of this Q&A, we were talking about how much you should speak to your children about these things. And the reason why it's so important. And that is because if I'd known those lessons, maybe, just maybe, I would have been able to say something to someone. I would have understood that it was wrong. Now, can we communicate all of these things in these opportunities that seem to be coming up at the moment for me? This theatre production, let's quickly go back to that, because this is a great moment to speak about that again quickly. The grooming process is something that people just can't get their head around. They don't understand how a child is taken and will participate in sexual behaviour. They just can't get their head around it because they don't understand the power of the grooming process. Now, if I can pull off this theatre production, if this London company that are speaking to me, hopefully on Friday, want to really put something on and produce this thing, fingers crossed they do, can we get all of this information? Can we show this information, but in story form, right? In story form, we can show a child and an adult and how the relationship builds, because in some ways it can be considered a relationship. People just can't get their head around it. It's because the media portray it as like some angry big monster and like a scared and a frightened child. But it's not that. They portray it as like some aggressive, painful, physical fight between adult and child. No. I don't believe that many of the situations are like that. Can we take a character? Can we start its life? Can we show it as a child? Can we show it? Can we show that character developing into a young child, and an adult comes on the scene and starts to groom them? We can show how the child's mind starts getting overpowered by this adult. Now, you imagine a stage, right? You imagine the audience, and then you start thinking about, could we have powerful sounds in the background, right? Could we have some movement? So the boy would go over to one side of the stage and it's all happy and the movement is soft and there's great music in the background, it's melodic, and then the adult comes onto the stage that's going to groom them, and then the music changes because it shows the audience that there's some danger, but we don't know what the danger is, and then the adult starts to groom the child and the music gets darker and it's all very theatrical. Now the reason why I'm saying this is a great idea is because people are glued to story, right? We watch things on the TV for hours. Some series are like seasons long. We love story. We're engaged in story. So it's all good to communicate this subject through lectures and through articles, newspaper articles. But when it's done in story form, people who don't have a direct link to the topic will also watch it, right? Because it's not only about reaching survivors. It's not only about reaching the survivor community. It's also about reaching the people outside of the survivor community, because they need to understand this as well. In fact, maybe it's more important that they understand it. So a theatre production may do that. Let me give you an example of something that did it incredibly well, right? Let's take The Queen's Gambit as an example. That show on Netflix is Netflix's most successful TV series to date. It was 3 episodes and it was about a young girl who played chess, essentially, right? Of course, there was many other sideline stories, but essentially she played the game of chess and she wanted to become chess champion. It was done so well that Amazon and eBay reported that they'd sold out of chessboards. Because everybody was so glued to the series, they became interested in chess. Chess is a dying out game, right? Nobody plays chess anymore, really. It's old school, right? But they managed to bring it to the forefront and get people buying it, buying the board game. Who plays board games anymore? Hardly anybody, right? So they managed to do something very clever. They took a subject, the game of chess, they brought it into the series and brought it to the forefront and got people interested in it. Now, can we get people interested in this subject through this kind of story? Get them glued to it, get them going to work and being like, oh my God, I watched this thing on child sexual abuse. You should watch it, you know? That's the kind of thing that I'm after. Okay, everybody, hello, everybody that's just recently joined. Some people have just recently joined. This is a live Q&A. It's an Ask Me Anything live Q&A, the second episode of this, and I'm really enjoying doing these, and I'm so thankful that you would join me to do these. I believe they're interesting conversations, I really do, and important conversations about tough topics. We've got a question come in, so I'm going to try and answer that. So, do you know anything current in the media that presents grooming accurately? I wonder if there's a reason why there aren't many examples. Perhaps it's too uncomfortable for viewers. Thank you so much for that question. Now, I have not seen any media communicate grooming in a way that's blown me away. No doubt there's been a lot. There's been a lot that I've watched where I've been like, yeah, that's really good. But there's nothing that's been blown me away. Now, there are a couple of Instagram accounts that I follow. Richard Pink is one of them. Ryan Gadsby is the other one. They're both male survivors and they are both trying to tell their story in the best way that they can. They hit the nail on the head often, right? So I just say their names again. Richard Pink, I think his Instagram handle is 1in6, 1_in_6. And Ryan Gadsby is Edge of the Bed podcast. Now, The people who are talking about their experience seem to nail it on the head. Richard in particular talks about how he enjoyed it. He even talks about how he orgasmed through it. He talks about how he went to his grandfather when he was feeling a bit lonely and wanted to interact with him in a sexual way. Not many people talk about that. Yeah, not many men talk about the fact that they... How to get this terminology right? It's tough. Some people, when they were being abused, they got something out of it, whether that be comfort, whether that be love. This is something that people can't get their head around. Some of the survivors are explaining it really well. Why are the media not talking about this more? Why are the media not talking about the grooming process more? I don't know. Maybe it's because it scares everybody. And rightly so, actually. You know, in some ways it should scare every parent, especially if they haven't talked to their children about it. This is what, you know, I feel like sometimes I don't want to come across as arrogant, right? But I feel like I can change this. I feel like I can do something. I feel like I can just do something unique. And I've got to keep that mindset, because if I don't keep that mindset, then, because sometimes this project does put me on my knees. It really does. You know, sometimes it really does get me down because things aren't growing, things aren't going the way I want. But just because I've got that belief that something really special can be created, it just keeps me on the straight and narrow. Consent Parenting have just written that there's a new documentary from a woman called Groomed. I've watched it. It's very, very good. I'd just like to make a comment on that, actually. I had to pay to watch that. Right, so I had to pay to watch that program. I don't know if it's still behind a paywall. So, when it comes to a program like that, I believe it was like a documentary. It was like it was an hour and a half. It was about a girl who had been groomed by her swimming coach. Excuse me if I haven't got the details exactly correct. And it was about an hour and a half. She confronted him. She tried to prosecute him. And it was a really well done documentary. 10 out of 10. But it's behind a paywall. Like, it's behind a paywall. Now, I know everybody needs to make money out of their production. I am one of those people. If you're following me on Instagram or any other social medias, you will see that I am trying to generate funds. Okay, I have a donation page. Please, 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 if you've been enjoying my content, if you find my content useful, if it has helped you in any way, please do consider donating. At least, even if it's £1, even if it's $1. Because all of these videos that I'm making, I am paying for people to help me. I'm not making them on my own. So I'm trying to generate funds through donations. You can find that at jeremyindica.com/donate. I'm now in talks about merchandise. I'm trying to kick off this theatre thing with tickets, because if I can't generate any funds, I can't keep going. I can't keep doing this because I'm not working. I'm on this full time. I'm trying to get it to blow. I give up my engineering job, which you would have seen. I posted about it today. I posted about it yesterday. About what I used to do. I used to be an engineer. I've given all of that up to pursue this, so I need to generate funds. Now, back to the main point. That film called Groomed is behind a paywall. Now, the problem that I see with that is that it is only going to reach 1/10 of the people that it could reach if it wasn't behind a paywall. So what's the solution for that? They obviously need money. That documentary must have cost a lot of money to make. So they needed to make money to pay for it. But they put it behind a paywall. And I don't even reckon 1/10 of the people even watched it. And the reason why I say that is I've experimented a little bit, right? So I've made a video. I put it on YouTube only. And then I've put a picture post on my Instagram to let people know that I've released something new on YouTube. I'll get 100 likes on the picture and 20 views on the YouTube channel. So nobody's actually making that jump to go over, right? Because there's kind of a wall there. a wall. It's not a paywall, but it's like people have to do something to get there. People don't want to do it. I get that. You're on Instagram, you just want to flick through. Whereas if I just put the video straight onto my Instagram, it gets watched. So now you think about this paywall business, people are going to see the advert for Groomed and be like, yeah, that's great. It looks really interesting. Oh, it's going to cost me $5.99. I'm not watching that, especially somebody who hasn't got a direct link to the topic. They're probably just not going to watch that because they know it's going to be a little uncomfortable. Why would they watch it? They don't know anybody who's been through it. So it's kind of like, it would be nice if we could put all this content out there for everybody to watch, but how would we create funds through it? Maybe we would have sponsors, maybe we would have adverts, maybe we would have donations, maybe we would offer like behind the scenes video, which could be a paywall because that's not the main video. I'm not sure. I'm trying to work this out at the moment. I'm sure many people trying to run their pages are trying to work this conundrum out. Okay, let me just scroll and see if there are any more questions here that I've missed out. I'm so sorry, I've been chatting so much. I get so into this because, you know, I've heard some people say to me before in the couple of years that I've been doing this, look, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. You gave it your best shot and you can always go back to engineering. And I agree. I can always go back to engineering, and if this doesn't work out, I gave it my best shot, yes. And then I can be at peace that I gave it my best shot. But that isn't the situation here. Because this isn't just about me, right? This is about every child that is being abused today. Today. And tomorrow. And next week. 4 years. It's about every single child that is in one of those situations that doesn't have a voice, because children don't have a voice in this world. Let's take the under 10s. They don't have a voice in this world, right? So if I go back to engineering and I can't make this work, then I cannot contribute to trying to help children get out of the situation that they're in. And what could be more important for me to do with my time and my experience? To just try to turn it into something where at least one child can get out of the situation that they're in. But to add to that, also to try to give some inspiration to people who have been through it, you know, to show them that there are alternative ways of looking at it, because that would be a good thing. That would be a good thing. Okay, has anybody got any questions? Has anybody got any questions to ask me about my story, about the situation I'm in at the moment, about my work, about the kind of content that I'm putting out? Please do ask. Okay, we've got a question come in here. What was your family's reaction to sharing your story? Devastation. Right? Devastation. It's ripped everybody apart. It's ripped everybody apart. My friends, my family. Even now, you know, the first time I spoke to a friend was 9 years ago. He still can't deal with it. He was one of my friends when it was all going on, right? It was all going on. He had no clue that it was going on until I told him when I was 27. We were friends at the time the abuse was going on. He still can't talk about it. When I start talking about my work, or we're sitting around a dinner table and we're talking about my work, he goes silent, because it's just too saddening for people. It's ripping families apart. My family and my friends have stayed strong, right? They support me through this work that I'm doing. They've got my back. They're behind me. They want to see this work. But when I release videos, like the big videos that I release on my YouTube channel, where I go deep into my story, people can't take it. People can't take it because naturally you just feel so sorry for that child. You feel so sorry for that child. It's such a horrific thing. And now when you tell somebody 20 years later they can't do anything about it, they start questioning themselves, saying, what did I miss? What did I miss? Did I miss something? Should I have seen something? Did I ask the right questions? I can't believe I didn't notice. But with me, you would have never noticed. You would have never noticed. I was like any other young lad. I had a lot of friends. I was very social. I was very confident in class and with my friends. I played a lot of sport. I captained a lot of teams. I was outspoken. I was mischievous. I was naughty as well. But I was just a boy, you know. You would have never, ever. There was not one sign. I even asked the people now who I'm still in contact with, who grew up with me. I'm talking about parents of friends. And I asked them, now that you know what happened, when you look back, is there anything that you think, maybe that was a sign? They will say no. They will say no. What about schools to work with or tell them your story? Please, please, please. That's what I want. I want to go into a school, stand in front of a assembly of year nines. How old are year nines for people that are not in the UK here? Year 9 is 14. I want to go in front of a group of 10-year-olds. I want to go in front of a group of 7-year-olds and be able to explain with varying levels of detail, of course, about my experience, what I'm doing now, what I'm trying to achieve with it, and just talk about it like that, but talk about it in an inspirational way. I don't want it to be boring like lecture style, like a lecture where the kids are like, we got to sit for an hour of this. I want it to be interactive. I want to ask a question. What do you think I should have done? What do you think I should have done about that? What would you do in that situation? Like, I want to be like that. I want to have that. I want to capture their imagination and attention. But for me to get into schools, I still think I've got a little bit of a way to go. Number one, I only have social media platforms. When the website comes out, it will look a bit better. It will look a bit more professional. I feel like I need a bigger audience. I need to show that I've got more of a presence online. I'm working so hard to try to grow my audience, but my goodness, it's difficult. Maybe if I had done some radio interviews or possibly TV interviews, then schools would take me a little bit more serious. But the problem is that there's so much red tape around trying to get into a school. They would have to see your performance. They would have to give it the thumbs up. They would have to speak with the agent. That's, all of those things. But I think we're going to be able to do it. I spoke earlier on this Q&A about the theatre production. If I can get this working, if I can actually make this happen, we could take the theatre production, run it, and then tweak it for schools and say to the schools, look, we've already done this in London on 3 nights. We've tweaked it to be age appropriate. Can we come in? We'll do it for free. Like we'd obviously go into schools for free. Let's see. Do you feel like your experience has affected the way you currently deal with romantic relationships? I believe that is a almost impossible question to answer because and people on podcasts ask me that a lot. They ask me if my experience has affected my sex life or my romantic relationships. And okay, I could sit here and I could think, okay, maybe that did, maybe that did, maybe that did, but everything did. Everything that's ever happened to me in life has had an effect on the way I conduct myself. Maybe one of my close friends had a bad breakup and he was one of my close friends and I really witnessed that, and then that made me scared of getting into relationships. That could be a thing. It doesn't always have to be. It's not like the abuse drove everything. The abuse was one part of my story, one part of my whole experience. It didn't drive everything. And I think if I was to try to be like, right, the abuse probably did this, the abuse probably did this, I'd basically be guessing, you know. I'm still trying to work out whether that's me tiptoeing around that question, because I get asked it a lot, and I feel some resistance to answer it because I don't think there is an answer. Let me work on that. I apologise, Sarah Grillo. Maybe I didn't answer that correctly, but I am a work in progress as well, right? I'm trying to get better at this whole thing. I'm learning as I go. Thank you. Okay, when it was happening to you, where were your parents? At work. They were at work. We needed childcare. It was a trusted member of the family. So we went with it. You know, there was nothing unusual about the situation. There was no signs about the situation. It was like any other situation. So they weren't around. They weren't around at that time. But even if they were around, that doesn't mean that it wouldn't have happened. He wanted me. I got something from him. It was a perfect match. Can I say that? Do you think I can say that? I was getting something from him. He was after me, and we matched. So even if, let's say, my parents weren't at work, I would have spent time with him in any other situation. He was a trusted member of the family, and we would have done the things that we were doing. There is no blame available to distribute, right? There's no blame available to distribute. Let's just push that to the side, because for me that ain't helpful. What's happened has happened. It's over. It was over 20 years ago, right? I haven't got the time to be spending thinking about maybe the school could have done better. Maybe this person could have done better. Maybe I could have done better. Now it's like, right, how are we going to do better from now? That's what I'm trying my best to focus on. Thank you for your question. Testing me, really testing me. Okay, I'm just scrolling just to see. Okay, so I feel like it's gone really well again. The hour goes so quickly. I'm going to do these monthly, right? And I feel like this one was just as much of a conversation, exploring parts as much as questions. So I've got a couple of minutes left. I just want to say thank you to everybody that has stayed here and listened. And I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it engaging. I've got so much more work coming out. Please keep an eye on it. I'm working hard. Yeah, I'm working very hard. I'm putting out at least a post a day. I'm trying to make them varied. Some of them are pictures, some of them are graphics, some of them are my logo, some of them are talking about me, my story, how I'm feeling at the moment. Some of them are like the one I posted a couple of hours ago, statistics on child abuse. Some of them are about my history, some of them are about my vision, all of those things. Because I don't want this to get stale. I want it to be moving constantly, evolving constantly, and progressing, because that's very important. And the reason why it's so important is because the children are relying on us to do something about this. So let's end it there. I'll see you again next month. This has been excellent. I thank you so much for listening. I'm going to upload the full video tomorrow night. So if you want to rewatch any of it, you can. Thank you so much. Have an amazing evening. Thank you.